that beyond all these lectures, discussions, and the presentations that we'll have, the true value of this clinic will actually depend on our participation. I see 51 of us here. In fact, let's call our friends, our brothers from different chapters, our fellow African students, let them join and also benefit. I want to encourage all of us not to just sit back and merely be an observer, but unmute yourself when you have to. Be intentional, ask questions. Our speakers have availed themselves for us today. So let us use them in ways that will benefit us. We want to encourage all of us to engage actively in the discussions and take notes and also share ideas with the speakers, because we believe that sometimes one question that you ask through this program can lead to a mentorship opportunity and open models for you as students that are getting ready to enter the job market. And so it is now my honor to officially declare NUGS-CHINA Entrepreneurship Clinic 2026 open. Let the learning years flow. Thank you so much. May God bless us all. Thank you. Honorable Moderator, please take over.
Thank you, Honorable Moses, our NEC president. That was a powerful presentation from him. Without wasting much time, I call on Honorable Winnigold to introduce our first guest of honor for today's program. Please, whilst Honorable Winnigold do this, let us show a lot of emojis, a lot of, signs to show that you are ready for him. So, Honorable Winnigold, please, the platform is yours.
Thank you so much. Please, can I be heard? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Our special guest is Honorable His Excellency Alhaji Dr. Abdul Nashiru Isahaku, the Presidential Advisor and Special Envoy to the Middle East. I read the profile of our special guest of honor. His Excellency Alhaji Dr. Abdul Nashiru Isahaku is an international development economist with several years of experience in economic policy management and development. Having worked with reputable international institutions, including the World Bank, African Development Bank, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, SIDA, and the National Development Planning Commission of Ghana. He is the founder and executive chairman of the African Center for Governance and Economic Management. He has recently been appointed by His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama as Presidential Advisor. Before his appointment as of the Bank of Ghana, he was the second deputy governor and executive board member with oversight responsibilities of 8 departments, including risk supervision and financial stability. He was chairman of the Investment Management Committee of the bank. He was also a member of the Economic Management Team of Ghana, which was chaired by the Cocoa Marketing Company, and was commissioner and chairman of the Finance Committee of the Securities and Exchange Commission. He was previously the chief executive of Export Development and Agricultural Investment Fund, which he restructured and helped restore to operational effectiveness before his appointment to the BOG in year 2013. Please let's welcome Alhaji Dr. Abdul Nashiru Isahaku.
Thank you very, very much for that. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Thank you very, very much for that honorable introduction. I'm most grateful. When I got the invitation, I was asked to speak on economic governance, policy leadership, and strategic positioning. So I mentioned a colleague of mine who is in Nigeria, actually I work with. I told him I was going to speak on economic governance and all the other issues, which meant that I will talk about inflation, foreign exchange and monetary policy. And he said, no, please make it interesting for the students. I said, all right, I'll make it interesting for the students about inflation, foreign exchange issues, and monetary policy, but I will use examples from fufu, jollof rice, and WeChat. Because that's the truth. Whether you are running a bank or running a small trading business in Yiwu, the principle is the same. If you can't manage your cash flow, you are in trouble, jollof or yuan. In August 1961, two young countries met in Beijing. They were really two young nations. One met on the was only 4 years old at the time, 12. The world said they were too poor, too small, and too early. Both were dismissed. Written up before the first chapter was finished. But at the airport, Premier Zhou Enlai, who was the head of China at the time, looked at Dr. Kwame. Wake up. The world know us. That week, they signed our first economic pact. Chinese engineers came to build Juapon textiles. I'm sure most of you Ghanaians are familiar with Juapon. Ghana sent gold and cocoa to China, and soon after, students on scholarship. There was no WeChat then, no direct flights. It was simply vision, just vision. 65 years on, that bet is you. National Union of Ghanaian Students, the China enclave. Nkrumah and Zhou refused to wait for permission to compete. They saw a polarized Cold War world and asked not which bloc to join, but how to carve a third path. They positioned themselves. Today, my question is simple. How will you position yourself? Executives of NUGS-CHINA, Ghanaians, compatriots from other African countries, it is profound honor to speak to you as your special guest of honor, to see young Ghanaians gathered thousands of miles from Accra, from Tamale, Kumasi, Tadi, and united in purpose. That fills me with immense pride. You are not just students in China, ambassadors, our scouts in the future. Thank you, NUGS-CHINA, for the work you do. Representing Ghana abroad is no small task. You have built a home, and that matters enormously. You are studying in China, the world's second largest economy. At a time when Africa and Asia are rewriting the rules of global technology and innovation, the world is more competitive than ever. Technological convergence is disrupting entire industries that have existed. It's increasing. Geopolitical fracture is forcing countries to look inward. And the future of work is changing with new industries appearing every 18 months. But competition is not a threat. It is a filter. It reveals where you can truly stand out, where you, as students in China, can truly stand out. You have asked me to speak on economic governance, policy leadership, and strategic positioning in a competitive world. Again, in a highly competitive world, if I may. I shall situate this within the theme of this clinic, positioning success, navigate in today's competitive world. Let me begin with the world as it really is. Then I shall share with you some principles and tools I believe will serve you as Africans and as global partners. And this is it. The world you are competing in today. As a former central banker, let me frame. We live in a world that is merely competitive. It is polarized. It is highly fragmented today. And it's very fast. It moves fast. The old rules of globalization are fractured. US-China tariffs have risen sixfold since 2017. Can you imagine? Global trade interventions have grown 12-fold since 2010. Geopolitical incidents, even macroeconomic volatility, has the chief risk to growth, according to McKinsey's most recent global survey. The great power rivalry in Beijing is structural, not an aberration, and it will outlast any single leader. And yet, here is what the headlines miss. This is also a moment of extraordinary African opportunity. Supply chains are regionalizing. The world is reorganizing into blocks. Africa, with its 1.4 billion people, its mineral wealth, and its AFTA, CFTA, sits at the intersection of every major power strategic interest. You are standing at the epicenter of one of those powers, China. That is not coincidence. That is advantage you must take. This polarized world runs on three realities you must internalize. This today, the world you are competing in is polarized again and runs on three realities you must internalize. You may take notes, please, because it is one. Capital is not that trust. Capital is abundant, but trust is scarce. Money moves in borders, but investors now ask hard questions. Do your institutions work? Are contracts enforced? Is macro stability predictable? Ghana learned this painfully in 2022 and 2023. When trust erodes, no amount of natural resources buys it back quickly. Listen here is, institutions are the most valuable infrastructure a country or an entrepreneur can build. Institutions. Reality two, a technology is revolutionary, but its benefits are political. And what do I mean by this? AI can write code, diagnose disease, and trade foreign exchange, driving costs. Yet every government, from Beijing to Accra, faces pressure to create dignified work for its youth. Technology slashes prices, embrace slashed prices, decides who benefits. Those who understand both worlds, that's the technological and the political, will be the most consequential actors of your generation. Reality three, geography is destiny. Africa's geography has never been more valuable. Proximity to Europe, ties to the ECOWAS, and mineral endowments, critical energy transition, and a deepening friendship with China are not sentiments for Ghana. They are a strategy. And you, sitting in China today, has a strategy. In this world, entrepreneurship while understanding governance is gambling. Policy without understanding markets is fantasy. And I want to give you 3 principles to hold both simultaneously. 5 principles for success in a polarized world. Hope you are taking notes. They will be helpful. The first principle is compete with context, not just credentials. A young man from Kumasi landed in Shanghai, no Mandarin, freezing winter, culture shock. His name was Dr. Emmanuel Kopi Sechere. Sent him to study medicine. He could have gone, it got hard. He didn't. For 43 years, he treated patients in Shanghai. When SARS arrived in 2000, he volunteered on the front line. Chinese media called him Mai Lai Hai, old black, and they did so with love. In 2016, they flew 2 flags, Ghana and China. Dr. Sechere never asked, what can China do for me? He asked, what can a Ghanaian do for China? This is positioning. Degrees are the ticket to the room. Context is what gets you head at the table. You carry something your classmates from other nations do not. Understand Ghana and China simultaneously. You know the rhythm of Makula market and the speed of Shenzhen. You can explain why mobile money in Ghana scales faster than credit cards. You understand why China's supply chains move like water. You grasp what African scarcity demands and what Chinese ingenuity can supply. In a polarized world, that Ghana is your urge, is your advantage. Don't dilute it, sharpen it. The most urgent problems in the world, that's poverty, disease, being solved because the people with the technologies often lack the context of the communities they serve, and those with the context lack the tools. But every one of you is used to close the gap. You understand the context of our communities and the technical capabilities and dynamics of China. Pick one sector you, whether it's agribusiness, health technology, renewable energy, logistics, creative arts, and learn how it works in China and how it could transform Ghana. The bridge, because the world always pays for bridges. The second goes to the most positions. Your unfair advantages are built on 3 key pillars. Pillar 1, skills, technical depth, and adaptive intelligence. AI will not replace you. I hear people say that when AI comes, it's going to replace my job, me. But someone using AI will not replace you. The 2026 business landscape is clear on this. Companies are prioritizing people with high level analytical ability, domain expertise, and the capacity for continuous learning, not just technical certificates. Learn the tools of your era, but more importantly, learn how to learn. That meta skill is what compounds over time. There are roughly 200,000 African students in China today. Fewer than 8,000 are Ghanaian. Among those, how many speak functional Mandarin, hold an engineering or economic qualification, and can navigate Ghanaian regulation? A few hundred, perhaps. That scarcity is your positioning. Pillar 2, networks, the significance of networks. Your first board of directors is in this room where you all are. NUGS-CHINA is not a social club. It is your first board of directors. The person sitting next to you and tonight may be your co-founder, your investor, your link to a ministry in 2030, or your lifeline when a deal goes sideways in a language you are still learning. Embrace hard work with humility. Humility in networks means you add value before you ask for it. It means you approach relationships as long-term assets to be cultivated, not short-term transactions to be extracted. Invest in your NUGS colleagues now. Invest in your NUGS colleagues now. The returns are generational. The final pillar is a story. You must have a story to tell. Clarity creates opportunity. Know how to tell your story in 30 seconds. Something like this. I'm a Ghanaian engineer trained in Hanju. Focus on solar microgrids for rural West Africa. Very clear. Clarity like that creates opportunity. Vague people get forgotten. Precision people get called. In this polarized world, or in this very competitive world, where every major power is reassessing alliances and supply chains, the person who can say clearly what they stand for and what they can deliver across languages and cultures becomes indispensable. The third principle, I've talked about two principles so far. The third one, the rules are the foundation. Master them before you bend them. Understand the rules in the space that and context you operate. My years at the Bank of Ghana taught me one brutal truth. Markets forgive mistakes, but they punish uncertainty. When Ghana adopted inflation targeting in 2007, when we cleaned the banking sector, when we managed the city through successful global shocks, the goal was always the same. Create a rule-based environment where entrepreneurs could plan with confidence. Investors do not fear risk. They fear unpredictability. They fear uncertainty. Nkrumah said, we face neither east nor west. We face forward. But forward requires rules, not rhetoric. China's extraordinary rise was not by accident. It was not an accident. It was sequenced policy leadership. Sequenced policy leadership. Special economic zones in 1980, entry to the World Trade Organization in 2001, made in China 2025, dual circulation today. Policy sets the table. Entrepreneurs bring the food. For you, as future founders, executives, and policymakers, economic governance means three things. Master the planning. Know how monetary policy works. Understand foreign exchange regimes, tax codes, and abstract rules of origin. The most consequential founders I know can read a central bank communique in a time shift with equal fluency. They understand that a 200 basis point interest rate move changes their cost of capital, their customers' purchasing power, and their suppliers' viability simultaneously. That fluency is not optional. I can tell you this for nothing. It is foundational. Then volatility, not just viability. You build volatility, not just viability. China taught you efficiency, or it will teach you efficiency. Ghana will teach you volatility, because always yo-yo, up and down. Build businesses that can survive 20% inflation and 15% CD depreciation, not just thrive in comfortable conditions. If you can price risk in Ghana, you can price risk anywhere on earth. Ghana is arguably the world's best training ground for resilient entrepreneurship. Do not waste that education. Finally, demand sound governance. when you return. When you come home, do not simply ask the government for contracts. Ask for stable, transparent, and enforceable rules. Advocate loudly for institutions over individuals. That is the highest form of patriotism. Prosperity is built on institutions, not on patrons. Principle 4. You must play long games with long people. The world is noisy and dangerously short-term. The world is noisy and dangerously short-term. In this polarized environment again, attention fragments, algorithms reward outrage, and courtly thinking has infected even government policy. Against all of that, your greatest competitive weapon is time horizon. The story of Dr. Setri is instructive here again. He came to China in 1973 to study medicine. He stayed 43 years. He did not build a unicorn. He built trust. He built a reputation that outlived him and flew 2 flags at his funeral. Trust is the ultimate currency, and it only compounds with time. John Lewis, the great civil rights leader who spoke at Harvard in 2018, told graduates to, I quote, get in good trouble, necessary trouble, unquote. He meant, do not wait for permission to be consequential. Do not stand on the sidelines of history because the moment feels inconvenient or risky. Long games require courage and not patience. Ask yourself now, what will make Ghana call me back? Not just to visit, but to build. Perhaps it is Mandarin plus technical expertise in a sector Ghana is undeveloped in. Perhaps it is a deep understanding of Chinese construction methods applied to Ghana's infrastructure deficit. Perhaps it is research solving a real problem at home. Knowledge for problem solving, not knowledge for knowledge's sake. China respects competence. Ghana needs builders. Position yourself where both are true, and then stay there long enough to matter. In the current multipolar world, where supply chains are fragmenting and every major economy is seeking reliable partners, the Ghanaian, who is deeply trusted by Chinese counterparts, is extraordinarily valuable. That trust is built over years. Start building it today. The final principle, that's principle 5, will be develop geopolitical intelligence. Know the weather before you plant. This is the principle that most entrepreneurship curricula omit entirely. And in the world of 2026, it may be the most important of all. McKinsey's global leadership research is unambiguous on this. Geopolitical instability is now the primary risk facing global businesses, outranking macroeconomic volatility, cybersecurity, and even technological disruption. Since 2017, US-China tariffs have risen 6-fold. Industrial policy interventions globally grew by nearly 390%. Between 2017 and 2024, the world is fracturing into competing blocks, and the rules that govern global trade for 70 years are being rewritten in real time. For African entrepreneurs, this is both a threat and a historic opportunity. Every major power now needs Africa. China for minerals and market, the US for geopolitical balance, Europe for supply chain diversification, the Gulf states for food security. Africa is no longer a peripheral market. It is a central prize. But you cannot capitalize on that position if you do not understand the forces at play. Geopolitical intelligence means knowing why is the US pressuring African governments on Chinese 5G infrastructure? What does China's Belt and Road recalibration mean for Ghana's port ambitions? How do AFTA rules interact with ABWA? How does the energy transition create new mineral leverage for Ghana? Consider the story of how Ghana positioned itself to host the Aftex Sectarian. It was not the largest economy in the bidding. It was not the most powerful, but it was strategically credible. Known for democratic governance, macroeconomic reform, and institutional reliability. That is geopolitical intelligence applied to national strategy. You must apply the same logic to your personal and professional strategy as students now in China. With these principles, I now give you 3 positioning moves for a polarized world. How do you position? First, arbitrage knowledge, not just goods. Do not merely ship products between Ghana and China. No wigs, no shoes, no fridges, not that. Ship the model you learn there. How did Pinduoduo build rural e-commerce that reached 900 million users? How could that architecture serve Tamilian farmers or Brown and Hafu cocoa cooperatives? That is a transformative idea. Ideas that travel between contexts are more valuable than goods that travel between ports. Second, build with 2 balance sheets. There are emerging opportunities to raise patient capital in China for deployment in Ghanaian markets, where assets remain comparatively undervalued. But, and I say this as a former governor, always hedge your foreign exchange exposure. Currency mismatch has destroyed more promising African businesses than poor strategy ever has. Borrow in the currency you earn wherever possible. Third, become a bridge institution, not just a bridge person. It is admirable to be a connector. It is transformational to build a firm, a platform, a school, or an association that connects systematically. NUGS-CHINA itself could be that institution. The question is whether you treat it as a student welfare body or as a long-term strategic asset for Ghana. Talking here about NUGS-CHINA. That choice is yours to make right now on this platform. Let me also share with you 3 lessons from the Bank of Ghana. Let me bring this to ground with these three specific lenses from my years in central banking that I believe will sharpen your positioning. 1, economic governance. It's the foundation that beats rhetoric. The most successful policy intervention I witnessed in my career was not a dramatic rescue package or a bold headline policy. It was the quiet, painstaking establishment of credible institutions, a monetary policy committee that met on schedule, published its reasoning, and stuck to its framework under difficult circumstances. That consistency built the trust that allowed Ghana to access international capital markets when it needed to. The lesson for entrepreneurs is identical. Build credible systems within your own organizations from day one. Governance is not bureaucracy. Governance is infrastructure. It's the infrastructure of trust. And in a world where institutional trust is the scarcest commodity, the organization that ends its earliest wins longest. 2, policy leadership that you had asked me to talk about. In that context, be the bridge between rooms. Ghana is setting tables that need people who can fill them. Our after sectarian in Africa, our national AI strategy, and our growing renewable energy frameworks, these are real policy opportunities, but they require leaders who understand both what is possible technically and what is acceptable politically. That is synthesis is what I call policy leadership. You know why Ghana's mobile money achieved 60% penetration while comparable markets failed. You have seen how Ghana moved from imitation to genuine, You have seen how China moved from imitation to genuine innovation in 30 years. You can translate again Shenzhen speed into a language a Ghanaian sector ministry can act on. You can explain Ghana's domestic debt exchange program to a Chinese institutional investor. That bilateral fluency is an extraordinary and scarce asset. Now, your assignment, my dear brothers and sisters, identify one Ghana-China gap and close it. Agri-tech and food security, electric vehicle battery supply chains, pharmaceutical manufacturing, cold chain logistics, port connectivity. Write the policy memo. Be the one to write the policy memo. Structure the joint venture framework. Become the person who makes the connection that changes the trajectory. Governments do not create wealth. Entrepreneurs and innovators do. Governments create the weather. Help us make it good weather for investment. Finally, strategic positioning. Compete where you are scarce. In economics, comparative advantage tells us not to compete where we are weak relative to others. Sure, you know this. But to specialize where we are strong relative to what the market needs. The same logic applies to you personally. You ask us, not in the global population sense, but in the specific combination of capability sense, mentoring competency, understanding of Ghanaian regulatory frameworks, and networks on both sides is your comparative advantage. Do not dilute it by competing in spaces where you are common. Sharpen it by going deeper where you are rare. I think I've spoken for a long time, but let me try to wind up here. And I'll start with where I began, with two young nations, China and Ghana. Both were poor, both betting on each other across an uncertain world. That bet was not naive. It was strategic. Nkrumah and Jew saw a polarized Cold War and refused the binary choice. They built a third path, not by waiting for the great powers to invite them, but by creating enough shared value that the world could not ignore them. You face a different polarized world today. US-China rivalry, technological disruption, climate stress, the fracturing of the multilateral order. But the strategic logic is identical. Do not wait to be invited. Build enough value that the invitation becomes inevitable. But let me hasten to add, civic education and giving back are not optional additions to a successful life. They are the definition of it. Your degrees are not just personal achievements. They are social investment that carry obligations. Your time in China is a social investment made by your family, your communities, and by Ghana. Honor it, please. And 5 things I will say, which you should root in Ghana, ground it in the world you are learning here in China, and then pursue it with the discipline, humility, and long-term conviction that makes careers consequential and lives meaningful. Use your Ghana-China context as your primary competitive weapon. It is rarer than any credential. Build your unfair advantages now. Master the rules of economic governance. Build trust slowly, compound it consistently, and resist short-term wins that would constantly evaporate. Develop geopolitical intelligence. NUGS-CHINA. You are Ghana's forward scouts in the most competitive economy on earth. Economic governance gives you the field. Policy leadership sets the rules. Strategic positioning wins the game. The world is not waiting for you, but it is watching us. Let us give it something worth watching. My brothers and sisters, you were not sent to China merely to compete. You were sent to position. Positioning means you do not merely react to the future. You anticipate it, shape it, and arrive early. You all must come home and build come home physically or digitally. Ghana is waiting. And when you do, remember the words Premier Jew and lie on that airport tarmac in 1961. Again, I quote, if we help each other, the world cannot ignore us. Unquote. Thank you for the kind attention. I wish you fruitful deliberation in the days ahead. Thank you.
Oh, let's show some love. Let's show some love. Let's show some love. This is incredible, a powerful presentation from His Excellency Dr. Abdul Nashiru Ishaku. Let's do it. You can do it better for him. We can do it better for him. Can do it better for him. Personally, I've been impacted and I've really learned a lot from the presentation. In fact, I'm sure that everyone on this particular platform has also been impacted by, in fact, this wonderful presentation by His Excellency. Let's do it better for His Excellency once again. Let's do it better for His Excellency once again. Your Excellency, we are indeed grateful. In fact, we extend our heartfelt gratitude for gifting us with your valuable insight on economic governance, policy leadership, strategic positioning, and in fact, your vast experience and visionary leadership have illuminated the pathways for some of us to be able to, go through success, or let me say, to inspire to navigate challenges with resilience and innovation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. We are really, really grateful. We are really, really grateful. I think
thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. We will open the platform for question and answers, but then at the moment we will run quickly to the next speaker so that when we are done, then wrap up everything as soon as possible. So at this moment, I would like to invite. In this moment, I would like to invite Honorable Gifty Ajua to introduce our second guest speaker for today for us. So Honorable Gifty, please, the platform is yours. Honorable
Thank
Gifty.
you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce our amazing guest of honor, the beautiful woman. So I'm going to jump in and read her profile. She's in the name of, she's the best of Miss Abna Nyamisem Esquire. Miss Abna Nyamisem is a trade, sustainability, and digital transformation expert with extensive experience supporting African governments, regional bodies, and private sector institutions in advancing inclusive and environmentally sustainable development. With a specialized focus on the African continental free trade area, she provides technical support on trade policy, green industrialization strategies, climate financing, and regional value chain development. She has contributed to several high-level initiatives promoting green and digital transitions across Africa, including advisory work on sustainable trade frameworks, environmental governance, and climate resilient industrialization. Her policy insights are grounded in practical experience, working on climate prosperity strategies, digital skills acceleration programs, and trade law research networks. A strong advocate for responsible and innovation-driven development, Abna Nyamisem Esquire integrates expertise in environmental policy, green growth, and digital governance to support the implementation of the AFTA as a pathway for shared prosperity. She regularly speaks at regional and international forums on trade, environment, climate policy, and digital transformation. Abna Nyamisem is a lawyer and the executive director of AFTA Policy Network. She is a specialist in trade, sustainability, and digital transformation with expertise in supporting government, institutions, and SMEs to advance after implementation. ESG integration, green industrialization, and climate resilient development. She provides policy advisory to sustainable trade frameworks, climate financing, regional value chains, and digital governance. Her work cuts across climate prosperity strategies, gender digital inclusion, digital skills programs, and trade law networks, contributing to major initiatives on green and digital transitions. A frequent speaker at regional and international forums, Abna is committed to promoting responsible innovation-driven development that aligns economic growth with environmental sustainability across Africa. We are so glad to have you here, Ms. Abna Nyamesem Esquire. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ajwa. That's a generous introduction. Because of bandwidth issues, I'll just open my video briefly so that we can interact with the audience. But before I start my presentation, I just want to say a big thank you to Honorable Abdul Nashiru. That was an awesome presentation. I kept writing and my notes are filled up. We hope to come to you for more insight. That was very, very inspiring. Thank you very much. So to continue the morning, I think it's afternoon in Ghana, still evening in China. Hello, everybody. We're going to continue our conversation today. I hope I can be heard, please.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, Ms.
Thank you very much. To continue our conversation today, if my presentation can kindly be projected. I will be speaking on entrepreneurship as a catalyst for Africa's economic integration and prosperity. I have just one simple task, just to help us understand how we can turn raw ideas. Trust you me, with all the introductions and presentations that Honorable has given us today, we believe in ourselves as Africans. Africans are knowledgeable. We have the ideas. So my duty this morning or afternoon is to help us to turn it into bankable ventures and see how we can help ourselves transform Africa with our bankable ventures, and also show how entrepreneurship, just as Honorable mentioned, is the engine for growth and transformation of Africa. Next slide, please. So my presentation is structured into 5 parts. We're going to take a deep dive into the Agenda 2016 and look at how it helps us transform Africa. We're going to look at how entrepreneurship helps us achieve the agenda. We'll try and create a link between entrepreneurship and economic integration, learn how to turn ideas into bankable ventures. Of course, there are so many challenges out there, but we're going to learn together and see how we can turn those challenges into opportunity. We can make some policy recommendations and conclude our presentation for this afternoon. Next slide, please. Agenda 2026 is basically Africa's long-term development blueprint made by the African Union. It's supposed to last us for 50 years. If you can see, my Africa we need is in red. But wherever you see the Africa Agenda 2026, it's the Africa we want. I believe they should have made it the Africa we need. because there is some sort of urgency here. From Honorable's presentation, it is essential we transform Africa with ideas. It's necessary for our survival today and for our future generation. Time is not on our side. We may think that Agenda 2026 is far, but trust you me, it is closer than we know. So for me, they should have made it the Africa we need. And this vision is focused on building an integrated and prosperous, and more importantly, peaceful Africa. It focuses on 4 main areas: economic growth, industrialization, regional integration, and youth empowerment. So, for instance, if you look at regional integration, how can our countries trade together? After it's here, it's created over $3.6 trillion market. But are we trading enough? But the big question is there anything to trade at all? So very soon we're going to see how all the ideas that we have, NUGS-CHINA, our compatriots from Liberia and Ethiopia, how we can all come together and build our ideas into bankable ventures. Next slide, please. So Agenda 2063 focuses on 7 aspirations, but our main focus for today will be on the first 2: building a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. And the second one is an integrated continent, politically united and based on ideas of Pan-Africanism, as well as vision for Africa's resilience. So the whole idea of Agenda 2026 is to build an Africa for Africans, Africa that we will all be proud of, an Africa that we all put our hands on deck and bring something out. Honorable made a very profound statement. We shouldn't focus on bringing the wigs, the fridges, and all that, but we should focus on bringing in the technology behind the making of the wigs. How were they made? So that our humble sisters and brothers in our rural communities will also benefit from those technologies. That we have in our own country. So that's what I'm saying. Aspiration 1 talks about prosperity through inclusive growth, whilst aspiration 2 focuses on integration. But just as I said, plans alone do not build themselves, but we, the entrepreneurs, are the delivery system. Without ventures creating the jobs, without trade, 2063 cannot be realized. So please, let's all work together to ensure that we bring in the technology and make this aspiration a reality. Next slide, please. So going forward, we're going to look at how entrepreneurship can be used as a catalyst for Africa's integrity and why this Agenda 2063 matters in the first place. Next slide, please. I hope you can see my slide. So we are now going to create a link between entrepreneurship as well as the Agenda 2063. The Agenda 2063 has already given us the vision, building an integrated, prosperous, and self-reliant Africa. And you as entrepreneurs, you are the engine and the catalyst for growth. You bring in the innovation, you bring in the investment, you bring in the enterprises. Without you, the agenda cannot operate. Just as I said initially, plans do not build themselves. So let's get a little bit practical here. Most SMS already create 8 out of the 10 jobs we see every day. ACTA has already opened the 3.4 trillion market, but who is going to trade in them? Have we asked ourselves that question? It's we the entrepreneurs. If we look at Africa, the record shows that we have the youngest youth population. Over 60% of our population is the youth, and they are under 25. So look at this. It's either this is a bombshell for us, or we can channel this into our biggest asset. Which one are we going to use? I think my duty this morning is to help us channel our biggest population into our biggest assets, creating entrepreneurship channels that will change this energy into something of value. I've seen a lot of things happening online. I see a lot of people now going into content creation. A lot of the youth are busy out there. That's the sort of energy that we need. Backed by the right resources, backed by the right technology, I think we can do wonders for our continent. And that's the vision of Agenda 2063. So at the end of the day, the key transformation pathways that we are looking at is economic integration. And AFTA has already provided it for us. The market is there. There are the enablers. They have the various protocols. If you look at their digital protocol, enabling electronic transactions here and there. If you look at their protocol for women and youth, special focus on how we can build inclusive trade and inclusive market that involves more women and the youth. We are looking at another pathway as industrialization and value addition. Now, it's exciting when you travel out there and you see Ghana chocolate on some of the shelves in the airport. But there are more that we can do. Honorable spoke a lot about economic transformation, value creation, and that is the era that will move Africa forward. We have the raw materials. Now we need the technology to push this agenda forward. Job creation, especially for the youth and the women. And this is the domain for entrepreneurship. Because as I said previously, we create 8 out of the 10 jobs that we see every day. Digital transformation and innovation. I don't know for the African countries, but with the domain that I work in, I can say that Ghana is close